Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you enjoy your lunch and not sleepy too much for listening to me. And now, my name is İrem, and I'm coming from Turkey and from İzmir University. And I will present you the importance of communication skills in multicultural environments. And we all know the importance of communication in our daily life, but also during these sessions, starting from Monday, we highlighted the significance of communication, starting with the Czech team's Spaghetti Marshmallow Tower Challenge. And this Marshmallow Spaghetti Tower Challenge showed us how we may communicate without using our words, and we managed to do that. And then yesterday with the Spanish team, we had a Kahoot exercise. I think this exercise was a powerful one to show how a group decides and communicate with each other, and the ones who were quicker to decide collectively were the best ones. But I'm not quite sure that Spanish still team have given the answer to their to the other ones. In the Belgian team and David made some exercises in which, as a group, we had to find some solutions for the problems, and we have to communicate with each other coming from different cultural backgrounds. So you are already familiar with this, with the importance of these communication skills in multicultural environments. We will start our session with understanding communication. And during this session, I will not try to give you all the theories related to communication, the definitions of communication. It's impossible to do it in this short session. But let's try to define firstly what the communication is. Very in a simplistic term, the communication was defined firstly in 1948 by Harold Laswell as a political scientist in origin. He defined the communication by defining the stages in a communication process, which starts with who says what, and then which medium we are communicating to whom, and with what effect. Here, this also table shows us in a communication process, we are always a communicator. For example, in this case, I'm the communicator, and I'm trying to give a message to you, so says what, and in all our communications, we are using some tools or mediums for giving our message. And to whom? To receivers. In this case, you are the receivers of this communication process. And with what effect? Always in a communication process, we have an ambition to give our message, and we want to create an impact. We want to create an effect. So this is a very simple definition of communication made in 1948. This is a good one because you can apply this to any kind of a communication. But something is missing in this table or in this definition. Anyone is willing to say which is missing in this type of a definition of communication? Yes.
Environment.
Environment, yes.
Yeah, context.
Yes, and what else? For example, feedback, okay? So it's a kind of a linear type of, communication, linear transmission of the message. So we always give our feedback when we have a communication. It means that you can give your approval, disapproval, or in the last session, for example, in all role playings, the communicator was trying to give a message, and there was always a feedback coming back. And also another thing missing is noise. Noise. What does it mean? Noise. In this case.
Interventions.
Interventions, yes, for example, a noise may come from, for example, you can't hear me, and this may disrupt the communication process. Or, for example, during the COVID time, we had some difficulties to, have this online communication, and all the time we were like this, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Yes. Like so this was all, some technical problems. But noise is not just limited with this. We also have some noise problem. If, for example, you are not here, maybe you are physically here, but if your mind is elsewhere, I can't reach you. Whatever I do, I can't reach you. So there might be, maybe you don't like me for some reason, and maybe whatever I do, I can't, convince you to listen to me. So there's always a problem of noise in communication processes. And in communication, we are not just using our words. There are also in communication processes some signs or icons or symbols, and they also give some messages. And for understanding the message, you have the similar background, some cultural references should be the same. And communication is not just limited with words. Each group developed their own way of communication. And for this specific situation, I want to share a personal anecdote with you. After having 1 year of French language learning, because my bachelor degree was a French one in political science in Istanbul. So when I learned 1 year of French in preparatory school, and with this, after this, education, I thought that I need to go to a summer school in France to improve my French. And I went to Paris and for the summer school. I was 18, and in this summer school, there were so many people coming from different countries. It was like the United Nations coming from different countries. And after a month, we were really quite good at communicating with each other, and we were thinking that our French is really well. And one day in a campus, we were talking with each other, and a French student overheard our conversation. And she seemed quite amused while listening to us, and I told her proudly, see how well we are communicating very well and how our French is really good. And she turned back to me and she said, I see, you are communicating very well indeed, but I'm pretty sure that that's not French at all. So this showed me, and this was a kind of an enlightenment moment to me to understand that communication is something that unique to each groups, and we developed our own way of communicating with each other. So it's really important to understand the main reference points. And now I want you to watch this video.
What this organization really needs is a one-on-one approach. Easy. Actually, what this organization really needs is repositioning. That means that what this organization desperately needs is change. Easily.
Yeah. So So I think it shows how we give different meanings to different words while we are communicating with each other. And for the communication, understanding communication, we should have this mutual understanding through message transmission and at the same time reception. And also today, communication is not just limited with the old kind of tools. Now we are using technology, all kinds of technological tools, and it's also changing all the time. And technological advances, they reshape the communication processes. Okay. Now, since our topic is communication in multicultural environments, I want you to present the high context and the low context cultures to understand the meaning of this communication. So, Edward Hall, any of you have heard about Edward Hall before? Yes, some of you, and some of you maybe not. Edward Hall in 1976, he introduced the concept of this high context and low context culture. So he made a distinction between cultures. So what does it mean? He added the concept of context into the communication process. So he says basically context matters in any kind of a communication process. So differences in contextual norms may lead to differences in communication. So for high context culture, when we use the term high context culture, basically Edward Hall refers to the idea that a kind of a culture in which people are communicating with each other in a non-verbal and implicit way of communication. So it means that this kind of culture, these high context cultures, always make references to the context. So if you are, for example, not familiar with the context, it's very difficult to understand the communication. For example, it's not enough to know the language. You have to know the references. And for example, Spanish, Spain, Turkish people, we can call them as the high context culture people. And they always give implicit messages. They mean something, but at the same time they refer to the other points, and they use non-verbal language many times. And now I will talk about this more, but basically also I want to define what the low context means. As you can imagine from the meaning, from the term, so the context is not really matter, such as the case in the high context. And so people communicate explicitly, directly, and they convey their messages more directly. And they use explicit language and direct communication. And for example, high context cultures, they give so much emphasis to collectivism, while the low context cultures give emphasis to individualism. And the examples of these countries are USA, UK, and the most Nordic countries have these low context cultures, according to Edward Hall. And for example, high context culture, if someone says something to that people in that culture, everyone feels responsible to say something on the behalf of their culture. For example, yesterday we were discussing this issue in the classrooms, for example. When there's a Turkish community, they have the tendency to choose someone as the representative of that community and ask the problems of Turkish community in total. While in the Belgian case, we heard that, for example, they prefer to explain their concerns individually. And so they don't speak on the behalf of their community. Everyone speaks for their own issues. And okay, so in this one, the communication styles, context, how they express their opinions, It shows all the points in this table, so for that reason I wanted to summarize everything in this one. Maybe which one is missing I haven't told about is the relationships. For example, in the high context cultures, it's really important to know the person before communicating with the other one. In the high context cultures, it's always trust is important. First of all, you have to trust that person, and then you decide to listen that person or not. Before starting the communication, you have this kind of strong emphasis on this building relationship and trust before engaging any kind of communication. And in the low context culture, it doesn't really, relationships are also essential, but this is not such as the case in high context cultures. I guess it's clear for everyone, high context, low context cultures. Anyone wants to share anything about this or any questions for this part? So how this affects our way of teaching, and I will show you a short video about this one.
I was recently speaking with a manager from Southern Europe, and when he learned that I was originally from the US, he told me, I thought Americans were supposed to be very efficient, but I'm having a lot of trouble with my team members. I give them the information for our technical projects, and then I have to repeat it again and again, and sometimes a third time. The reason you're having these difficulties, I explained to him, probably has something to do with what we call the differences in communication styles. Americans tend to communicate in a low context way, and Southern Europeans in a high context way. What do I mean by that? To help understand, let's look at a couple of slides here. On the first slide, you see the recipe for pasta with pesto sauce, taken literally from Italian cookbook, translated to English. The recipe assumes you generally know that when you put basic you have parmesan, olive oil to taste, pine nuts to taste. It's not so specific.
So just a minute, because
I was recently speaking with a manager from Southern Europe, and when he learned that I was originally from the US, he told me, I thought Americans were supposed to be very efficient, but I'm having a lot of trouble with my team members. I give them the information for our technical projects, and then I have to repeat it again, and sometimes a third time. The reason you're having these difficulties, I explained to him, probably has something to do with what we call the differences in communication styles. US Americans tend to communicate in a low context way, Southern Europeans a high context way. What do I mean by that? To help understand, I'm going to look at a couple of slides here. On the first slide, you'll see the recipe for pasta with pesto sauce taken literally from Italian cookbook, translated to English.
The recipe assumes you generally know that when you put the basil leaves in, you remove the bad part of the stem, you give olive oil to taste, pine nuts to taste. It's not so specific because they assume you're living in the context where you've grown up eating this type of dish. The second slide is much more low context, taken from an American recipe book. The measurements are very specific. There's specific instructions on the mixing speed, exactly how to remove the stems from the leaves, and exactly the right proportions. It's a low context communication style where the message is explicit, specific, direct from point A to point B. When I shared these slides with him, he suddenly had an insight. He said, yeah, I know what's going on. My team keeps telling me that I'm very vague, that I'm hiding information. I'm not specific enough. I'm going to go back and look at an email I'm writing today and redo it, because these technical projects need to be precise and exact.
Okay, and now we can pass to this navigating communication in multicultural classrooms. So multicultural classrooms require understanding of this language, diverse communication styles, and these cultural nuances. So you should be able to understand these differences. Otherwise, it's really difficult to understand what's going on there. And right now here, I also want to share another personal anecdote with you. This time I was an MA student, master degree student in Paris again, this time as a political sociology student. This time I was quite able to understand the political concepts in French, so it was perfectly fine with me to discuss the political issues with French people. So you put me in the parliament, I can talk about on the behalf of Turkish community and without hesitation. But daily life, conversations I wasn't quite familiar with still. And one day during the one of the classroom session, a teacher he explained his political concepts, and then he shared a story with us, and then everyone started laughing, so they seemed quite enjoyed. And I look around and I saw everyone is laughing, so I thought I should laugh too, because it seems funny. But then I see the eyes of the professor. I said, no. And then he turned around and he asked me, oh, Irem, you also laughed for this specific situation, so it has to be also funny in the Turkish context. So I had no idea what the story is about, and I had to explain what the specific situation in the Turkish context. So it was too late to ask what the story is about, because I had already laughed about it. So I had to think very quickly, and I said, Professor, Turkey is a very unique country, and it has its speciality, and it's impossible to explain this in the few words and in 5 minutes. So how can I explain this? Maybe another time I will explain you in detail. And he seemed, oh yeah, you are right. It's a really unique country. So yes, you are right. It's impossible to do this right now. So what a relief, but still I survived at that moment, but I'm still curious what the story was about. But anyway, so it's really challenging to have, this communication in multicultural classrooms. It's not because limited with just the, lecture notes or the, theoretical concepts. And we need to overcome these communication challenges in this multicultural norms, because we need to recognize the absence of these shared communicative norms, because we have all our own types of communication styles. And now I want to show you the impact of cultural differences and how these cultural differences influences our communication. Think about, for example, body movements. So we were talking in the lunch how we give different meanings, for example, to our body movements in different cultures. And something maybe sound as offensive, but in another country it means nothing in particular. And for space, anyone is willing to explain what space means in communication?
Distance?
Distance, yes. The distance, for example, we really had this felt during the COVID, times. We had to have this social distance with people, but a nightmare for Turkish people, Spanish and Italian people to put a distance while talking with each other, because we can't talk if we don't touch each other. So we have to, use our hands. We have to, hold each other, hug each other. And I saw a meme for Nordic countries. I'm not sure whether you see that visual. Before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID. Nordic people, they were staying a bus. They were waiting for a bus at the stop. And before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, nothing has changed. They were all have this distance with each other. But for us, we waited very, enthusiastically the end of this COVID times to, have this, less distance. And other things, for example, eye contact. I have already heard about that the Japanese people, Japanese students in particular, they avoid eye contact with their teachers to show their respect. So it was, if I didn't know that, so it was challenging for me because really I had a Japanese student. He was very successful and he avoided eye contact. So I didn't think it as a disrespect. It's quite the opposite. He was showing his respect by avoiding this eye contact with me. But for example, for Turkish students, if they like the teacher and if they understand the topic, they always give you support like this. And it means that, okay, continue. But when I started teaching, it was maybe 20 years ago, and in one of my classes there was a female student, and she was quite upset to be in my classroom. And one semester it was like a torture for both of us because she was listening to me like this. So maybe in your case, for the Bulgarians, it's not the case, but for my case, I feel so bad all the time. But this is really critical when you have this kind of an
maybe
communication.
Everybody doesn't know the Bulgarian case.
Yes, maybe Bulgarian origin and was giving the support to my classes.
Yeah, in Bulgaria, when you say yes, it's like this, and no is like this.
So you're saying no now?
Yeah.
So it's quite confusing when you have these kind of differences. Okay. If we know these culturally diverse students and their discourse styles, it helps us to communicate with them, and it empowers us to navigate the challenges, and it empowers the lecturers to enhance their academic performance. So it's really critical. And at the same time, we need to be able to culturally responsive, and we need to adapt our communication for diverse student needs. I can't remember which one, but one of our practical sessions, we all discussed this point: diverse learners, how we can reach them. because some groups explain that it's not just cultural, but also we have different learning styles, and these diverse learning styles influences how we communicate with each other. So for diverse learners, we need some multisensory materials, use multisensory materials, maybe individualize instructions, or a kind of assistive technologies, or we may give some modified assignments, and in all these practical exercises for the grading. In David's session, one of the cases was about these assignments, how we grade differently, how we should grade differently. So modified assignments helps us to reach diverse learners in the classrooms. Okay, so we need strategies for effective communication in multicultural classrooms. Aydın Hoca in the morning he mentioned some strategies, so I will not repeat all of them because he expressed it in detail how we should improve our strategies for effective communication. So we should be culturally sensible and we should have a kind of an awareness to reach many people who has diverse backgrounds, and we need to educate ourselves about these differences. For example, if I learn that I have students from coming different countries, I try to learn that culture, and I try to learn how they communicate with each other. I try to learn their historical background, how they communicate with each other. And so it's really critical to create an open and unbiased atmosphere. And we need a clear type of communication. So maybe we may communicate implicitly or explicitly, but we should be able to use a clear message. We should be able to develop clear messages. Maybe asking for a feedback if it is clear or not may help us whether our message is clear or well received. And at the same time, it's really important to avoid complex sentences, okay? I was working at a private university when I started, teaching, and they brought some people from Harvard University. So this was they have these resources, and students were complaining about me. His English is not good enough as your English, because they can understand me, but they can't understand the normal native English. So it's quite funny that we should be able to use a clear type of communication. Maybe we may encourage students to seek clarification and to ask questions for fostering dialogue and at the same time understanding. So we are not using our words, but also we are using our gestures. So nonverbal communication is really important. So how nonverbal communication helps us? It helps us to highlight the message, okay? For example, you say something, and then you, with your gestures, you highlight your message. And maybe it may, you can, with your gesture, you may say something, but your gestures may say quite the opposite. I feel this most of the time in my classrooms because I ask them, are you following me? Are you enjoying the class? They are telling me yes like this. Very good, continue, but they are yawning, but they are not really, they seem quite bored, but at the same time they are telling me yes. So this is something with Erving Goffman. Erving Goffman, he says in expression we give and expression we give off. So expression we give by the verbal terms, you give the message. Expression give off is the message that you give with your gestures. So, for example, in this book, he says, another example, you are on the beach and you don't want to be disturbed, and someone is approaching you and you are taking your book and started to read the book, that person doesn't come nearby. So this is like this kind of an, message you can give to the other part by your non-verbal communication. And now let's see how this different dynamics influences communication processes. Now let's watch this one.
Oh, we have our first group from India coming next week. Since Mr. Rashid has traveled to India many times, I've asked him to talk to you about etiquette in India. Mr. Rashid.
Oh, why don't you greet me as if I were an Indian tourist? Ask me to come with you and show me to the tour bus.
Okay, hi there, I'm Paul.
Oh, if I were an Indian woman, you would have just insulted me. Women and men generally do not touch.
Okay, hi there.
You just told me to go away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, too close. You should stand this far away from someone. Instead of shaking hands, do this and say, Namaste.
Namaste.
Excellent. Now, tell me to come with you to the tour bus.
Okay, come with me.
This is a rude gesture in India. Do it like this.
Come with me.
Good.
To the bus over there. I know, I just insulted you.
Pointing with your fingers is considered impolite. Use your chin instead.
To the bus over there. I'm never going to get this.
You're doing wonderful.
Well, thank you, Mr.
Okay, so I'm continuing the strategies that we have to develop in our multicultural classrooms. We have to facilitate the collaboration, group activities, and this will encourage the integration of these diverse peers. And at the same time, the multilingual support will help to create this inclusive atmosphere, not just use one language, but also try to, for example, give references from different languages. And providing these resources may help these non-native speakers in understanding the subject in a better way. And being flexible in teaching methodologies, it will also help to accommodate these diverse methodologies. And as I say, this continuous improvement and reflection, consistent feedback mechanisms they are really essential for ongoing growth and improvement. And when the time your verbal message and non-verbal message contradicts with each other, then it will confuse students' mind. So it's really very important to acknowledging these inconsistent messages, and as I say, to seeking the clarification will help to handle the multicultural classrooms in a very well way. So I'm trying to be quick to not to extend my time. And for overcoming, we all have some cultural biases, but we should try hard to, we should show our effort to overcome our cultural biases in multicultural classrooms. It will help us to, handle the situation effectively. So here I want to present you the barriers that affects our effective intercultural communication. Here, Barna, in 1994, she defined some stumbling blocks, the barriers that blocks the effective way of communication. Okay, so she has 6 barriers which disrupts our intercultural communication. So the first one is assumption of similarities. Okay, So we all think that we are the same, but we are not. We have in our mind this assumption of similarities. And recognizing and addressing these barriers are really critical in an intercultural communication. So I want to show a short video related to this assumption of similarities.
Okay, what else? Yes, ma'am. I do not understand item H403. H403. A lot of Americans wear these to sporting events. But why is it? It's hard to explain. We just do. Yes.
I don't understand the purpose of A221.
A221. That's a burger brand. Americans eat a lot of beef, and some people like to burn their initials into their food with a red hot iron before they eat it.
Why?
It's a cattle brand. You know, the thing you use to burn a symbol into a cow. No, in America, that's how you keep track of your cows, is branding.
With a red hot iron?
Yeah.
But wouldn't the cow run away?
Oh no, we only do it to baby cows. When they're small enough to hold them down. Yes, Sasha?
A suggestion, Mr. Todd.
Go ahead.
You need to learn about India.
So we shouldn't have the assumption of these similarities. And language is another barrier in intercultural communication. So we have different accents and pronunciations. Each culture each nation has these different accents and pronunciations. We have different jargons and technical terms, cultural items, expressions, and sometimes limited vocabulary belongs to intercultural communication. Writing styles, limited vocabulary, but even in the same country, these accents may create some kind of challenges. So let's see how it is.
Can I ask the honourable gentleman what work is being done to make sure this place is more accessible, particularly for some of our colleagues who have a disability?
Here.
Sorry, it must be something to do with my antiquity and background. Could you please repeat the question as I didn't follow it?
Very popular today. I'm saying that a number of parliamentary colleagues who have disabilities do find it quite difficult getting around certain parts of the state. Given that we're doing this refurbishment work, what can be done to make sure that those with a disability are able to move around more freely and the place is accessible?
I'm really sorry. Please, could you do it very slowly in an intimidating English? Thank you.
Just give me any answer. I think the answer might be helped if you could reply in writing when you're ready.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. I'll try it on the first go. Can I, because I'm Welsh, so God help him.
So even in UK, they have this kind of communication challenges. Not in the multicultural classroom, but this is how it is. And so the third barrier is nonverbal misinterpretations. So this is another barrier which obstructs the smooth transmission of the messages without using the words. So a very quick one for this one.
What can I get started for you today? What's that? Alright. 3 empty ones. Would you care for a pastry? Nope. Mocha. 3 mocha lattes. Double chocolate chip muffin. Go. You have 3 Paul McCartney CDs. Awesome. I love the Beatles. They are my life. So assassination. Abraham Lincoln. Move. Gun. Shoot. 3 shots. All right. So 3 lattes, 3 mochas, double chocolate chip muffin, and 3 shots. No assassinations. Oh, and 3 Paul McCartney CDs. Let's go. Study 6812.
Okay, for the fourth barrier is preconception and stereotypes. Yesterday we talked about these generalizations, stereotypes, and we had some activities for this, so I'm passing this part for not, repeating the same, content. But I guess we are all familiar with these generalizations, overgeneralizations, and the preconceptions, stereotypes. And the fifth barrier is the tendency to evaluate from your own cultural point of view. So this is maybe I can give an example for this one. I was teaching gender and media course, and for the gender socialization for this course, I started with giving the example of, for the boys when they are born, we wear them with the blue color, and for the girls with the pink color. So I shared this example. And then there was a Chinese student in the classroom, and I asked him, and also wanted to ask and confirm him that this is the case, right? The whole world does the same way. And he said, no, in China, for baby clothing is red. We don't have this distinction, blue or pink. So I didn't even think about this since that time, because maybe till that time what I have observed and what I read was like this. So this is tendency to evaluate from your own, cultural background. So this is another barrier that blocks the intercultural communication. And the last barrier is high anxiety. So in a multicultural classroom, there's always a tension and high anxiety. So for helping the students, it's really good to integrate them to the class. But it's not always a good idea try to integrate the student all the time. Because, for example, I had one Erasmus student in my classroom. So each time I ask students, what is the situation in this specific case? One Turkish student was giving an answer, and I was returning to him to give an example from his experience. So one of the break time, he said, yes, I can understand your good intention, but when you ask me all the time, I feel intimidated and I don't feel comfortable. It's a kind of I feel stressed out. It's a kind of topic of high anxiety for me. Please do not ask me, do not try to integrate me all the time. So it's you have to find a good balance while you are trying to do this. And so we need to overcome these cultural barriers for having this effective communication and fostering the inclusivity. Now, for concluding my speech, for achieving this effective communication in multicultural settings, we should have this cultural awareness, and we should be open-minded and try to communicate with all participants of this communication process. Before ending my session, I want to show you another video which may help us to understand this language sensibility and inclusivity. Yes, being sensible in linguistic terms is vital, but at the same time it's very good to be inclusive. But there are some instances that crosses the threshold, and there might be some potential pitfalls when you're all the time trying to be inclusive. Okay, let's see. Oh, no, you can't see it. So till now it worked out, but no. Okay, so anyone have already watched this video? Oh, It's so. I wish you had already watched that one, but just because I had to explain this right now. So here, they want a selfie from this person, and but I don't have the link right now. Maybe
just
I can
minimize it.
because it's funny. When I talk about it, it's not funny.
Let me escape. Try to step.
Here. Codec. Okay. You have me. So finally, for this one, they want a selfie from this guy, and so they ask him to help them. So he says, smile, but he says, why you are using the term smiling? This is so, are you suggesting to, be smiling all the time? You can't tell me how to behave. And then he says, okay, 1, 2, 3, and the other guy says, are you attacking to dyslexia people by using 1, 2, 3? I can't do this counting. So this is insulting. So another one say cheese, and he says, I am vegetarian. Why you are referring to cheese? So at the end he says, okay, I'm taking your photo, however you give the this. Look, I don't care. So he took the picture. So what I mean with this, video is, yes, being, sensitive. It's really good, but there are maybe some instances in which it crosses the threshold, and so there's a kind of a good balance when we are trying to communicate with each other. And now it's the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.